There are far too many entrepreneurs out there overworking and underliving.
As I look through my business and the ups and the downs and the challenges and the wins and all of that stuff, the times that we've won the most, it's when I've been most open to receive.
If you've been looking at it from the same perspective for a while and you're feeling frustrated, maybe it's time to take a step to the right or take a step to the left and just start seeing it from a different angle.
On episode 374 of the podcast, we talk about the critical shift from time-based to value-based work for video business owners. We also, and just so you know, this is one of my absolute favorite topics, time-based and value-based. We also explore the importance of recognizing the true value of one's work. And we discuss moving beyond hourly rates and the impact that this approach can have on your business growth and your personal freedom. What's up, my friend? I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business show where I help you, filmmakers, videographers, whatever you call yourself, somebody that is trying to make video production a career. This is where I help you on the business things, sales, marketing, processes, operations, how to hire your first employee. 370 something episodes in. We've talked about a lot of topics, and there is not one more, I think, that can make the biggest difference in your business from a financial perspective as the topic that we talk about today, value-based pricing versus time-based pricing. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'm excited for you to absorb this episode, but then also I would love to hear your thoughts on it afterward. So you can always email me, ryan@studiosherpas.com, or DM me. You could slide into my DMs, as the kids say. I'm at Ryan Coral, Koral, or at Grow Your Video Business. So would love to hear from you, especially if you're newer to this community, or especially if you've been hanging around for a long time and you've never said hi. How dare you? So anyway, I do hope to hear from you. I think that's all I've got right now. We do have an AI workshop that is coming up. We have an AI freebie that lists out some of our favorite AI tools that we're using to help speed up the flow of all of the things in our business, not just creating content and creating plans for content, but also for the actual video brainstorming and outlining and scripting and all of those things. So it is pretty amazing, and utilizing it to leverage your time, to get back your time, super, super valuable. Hope you check it out by going to studiosherpas.com/AI. Okay, ready? Let's get into today's episode. What's up, friends? Welcome to another episode of the show. Today with me is Bri Seeley, who is the entrepreneur coach. I'm so excited to have you, Bri. Bri, we didn't do this, but we should have. I have almost within arm's reach my little bobblehead, and yours. Oh, yep, there's yours. I don't think you can see mine. It's all the way. Can you see that, like on the corner of my desk? Okay, yep. Yeah. So, Bri, well, okay. Super excited to have you. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I cannot believe we were just saying, I haven't seen you in 18 months. This is long overdue since we got our bobbleheads 18 months ago.
That's right.
And I know I'm just thrilled to be having this conversation. So thank you.
Yes. We definitely connected. Got to spend some good quality time together in Lima, and it's so good to be together again. So you're one of those people in my life that is not afraid to speak what she believes. So I think as a coach, that is very helpful. There's a lot of, I'm sure maybe there are some people's feelings you've hurt in the past, but all with good intention, because I think the quicker we can get to like, what's the heart of, like, give me the steps, like, what do I need to do? What do I need to stop doing? As a coach, that's a gift. That's a skill set that you have. So thank you for bringing that into the world and helping people the way that you do.
Thank you. Yes, I am pretty succinct with my words usually, and I've learned over the years that not everyone can receive the level of directness that I usually communicate. So I'm currently helping someone with their TED Talk, and I had to say to her yesterday, so I think this entire chunk over here, like, needs to be deleted. And I like had to find a way to like softly just like, I just don't think it's like fits with the rest of the narrative. So I'm learning also more like, softer communication styles as well, because not everyone's quite for the like, just get rid of this section right here. That can go. I don't.
Right. Oh, that's so good. What would you say, like, what's been one of the biggest wins, one of the things that you've been most proud of in your journey as the entrepreneur coach?
I started this business 9 years ago now, which feels a little crazy to say. It doesn't feel like it's been 9 years. And when I started this business, I really didn't know what I was doing. I'd never done an online business before. I didn't really understand what it meant to like fully be the like creator of your wealth and creator of opportunities and things like that. And I was raised by an entrepreneur who told me at a young age, as an entrepreneur, you'll never take home a paycheck a day in your life. And I really have gotten to a point in my business where I know what needs to happen. I understand how it works. I can put myself out there. I just had my first 6-figure launch. I really have created something incredible out of nothing. And I get to impact a whole lot of lives along the way, which is a great perk of business as well.
That is amazing. Congrats on that launch. Congrats on 9 years. Going on 10. Is it going to be 10 this year?
It'll be 9 this year. So I started it, I think it was like April 1st. So I think, I guess going into my 10th year. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, actually. That's so good. One of the things certainly you address when you're working with entrepreneurs, one thing that I know that you're passionate about too, it's very easy. I'm the meme comes to mind where it's like, I quit my day job to become my own boss. I quit my 9 to 5 so that I could work 24/7, right?
Yeah.
There's this feeling, especially at the beginning. When we start our businesses, I don't care what coach you have, how good that person is. There's just this feeling when you realize that I'm made to do this, to start this business. You're going to do whatever it takes to make it work. After spending 24/7 for so long, the effectiveness of that becomes so much less. And your drive as a person, as a business owner, as a friend, as a spouse, as a parent, as all the things, all of that suffers from the 24/7 from the very beginning. How do you help people that haven't gotten out of that mindset, that really believe that their business is their baby and it requires 100% of their attention and their time? And, if I don't make this work, then, we're not going to have food on the table. Like, some of that can be true or whatever, but a mindset that really says like, it's business. If you don't let me, if you're going to give me a hard time about opening my laptop on vacation, that's, one less vacation that we're going to be able to take. Like, help us through that.
Yeah. So I am a little woo on the woo scale of woo things. And so one of the things that I always look at is, and anyone who's not woo, you can look at this in your business as well and say that, a lot of the most important things that happen in our business happen not necessarily as a result of us pushing, but more as a result of us kind of like allowing. And so, I say as a human, there's like a handful of things that I can do as a human. There's a huge storehouse of things that I don't have any control over, like meeting the right person at the right time, or, getting the right introduction to the right person at the right time. Or like, there's so many things that happen out of us being at the same conference at the same year, right? Yeah. Like you could have spoken a year after me and then we wouldn't have met. Or there's so many things, whether you call them serendipities, whether you call them whatever, that we just, no matter how hard you work or how hard you push, you cannot force into being. One of my favorite stories about this is how I met my significant other. I had been single for 12 years and I had been actively dating during that time, lived in Washington State, Los Angeles, Minnesota, New York City, and then Tulsa. So 5 different places around the country, actively dating in 5 different places over the course of 12 years. How he and I met, I never could have anticipated or predicted. And there were so many things that had to happen in order for that to occur that I didn't necessarily do. In fact, I'd been off online dating for at least a year, and I was at a wedding with my mom and my best friend, and they were like, let us just put you back on Bumble. Like, please, can we just put you back on Bumble? And I was like, no. And they like took my phone, and my friend wrote my thing, and my mom still took my picture, decided the pictures, and they put my profile back up. Like, had I not been at that wedding, to have them both there, to put Bumble back on my phone, so all of this to say, if you're just trying to effort your way through your business, you're going to hit a capacity. You're going to hit a wall because there is so much more available to us than just our efforts alone. And especially if you start looking at, if you bring a team on and then you can, there's 3, 4, 5, 6 other people who can also be out there helping you with things. I think that we get a little myopic, periodically as entrepreneurs and think well, if it's not me, then it's no one. Well, that's not exactly true. And actually, you then become the bottleneck to your growth of your business because your capacity is limited. And if you're not opening yourself up to the other things that are available to you, inevitably, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to hit your capacity. You're not going to be able to grow.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I think it's probably hard to hear. It's so much easier for me, almost 20 years into running a business. I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Effort my way through this business. No, the times that I've tried so hard to be successful, the times that I've tried to, I always say manufacture my own success. It doesn't work, right? The pulling or the forcing, it's when I've, taken a beat, opened my hands instead of clenched fists, I'm going to make this happen, but really open my hands and really just change what's going on, here, just my head, my heart, my presence. And that is woo, whatever. But I can't argue, 20 years as I look through my business and the ups and the downs and the challenges and the wins and all of that stuff, the times that we've won the most, it's when I've been most open to receive.
Yeah.
And it's when I haven't been trying to make something happen. My worst client stories ever and the worst things that have happened in my business ever have been the times where I've tried to force something that shouldn't have been.
Yep. It's so true. And, even think about so tangibly, tactically, let's think about something big that's been built, the pyramids, right? Granted, none of us really know how the pyramids were built. But if it were a single person trying to push all of those stones into place, how far would they have gotten? Probably not very far, yeah. Right? Versus the person that had the vision, coordinating a team, coordinating resources, coordinating tools and technology and different things to help make it easier so that one single person is not trying to push these blocks that I haven't yet been to Egypt, but they seem pretty unmovable if you're trying to be one person. And imagine the amount of effort you're putting forth to push something that literally you can't move. And I think about that a lot with business is if you're just trying to push and push and push and push and push, first of all, not terribly effective. You're putting out a lot of energy for a very little return.
Yeah.
There are way more effective ways of doing things. And, sometimes it takes you getting out of the way to let all of those other things work for you instead of you being the one that's having to power the machine.
Yeah, I finished a book recently, Who, Not How, Yeah.
I literally was on a call right before this and she mentioned that book and I'm usually like 2 calls back to back.
Yep, there it is.
I'm going to have to read that next.
So it's so good. Dan Sullivan and oh my gosh, Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I think as an entrepreneur, you start your business and you have to do all the things. It's like, oh, I got to build my website. I got to create a logo. Got to come up with a name. Got to register my website. Got to, figure out social media. I got to, you figure out all the things because we don't start with seed money and like, okay, let me just hire people and everybody's got, a specific job. Most of us, we learn how to do all the things. And then that just becomes part of our rhythm where we have to figure out how to do this because we got pretty good at it. Right. From the we can't be 2 years into running this business if we didn't figure out how to do it. So that culture that we've created, even just internally, that says, yeah, well, I can figure out how do we need to, how do you make a logo and how do you make a website and how do you do, all of these things. This book is like, hey, if you want to experience freedom, if you want to scale, if you want to experience business to the full, you really need to, and really life to the full, when you can carry this over into your personal life. Think like, instead of like, how do I create a social media strategy? It's like, who can build this and who can execute it? Yes, it's going to cost money, but depending on where you're at, what's priority in your business, you can get so much farther, so much faster when you aren't spending time figuring out the how and then trying to do it yourself. There's so many things in my business, like the website launch. Man, that took, 18 months. It could have taken 3 had I hired a professional. Yeah, it would have cost money, but 18 months of not having the site, what did that actually cost the business?
Yeah. I love that perspective. It's one I use a lot. I will say, in my business, in the very beginning too, was the one that did all those things. I learned how social media works. I learned how to do my books. I learned how to build a website. I learned how to edit all my videos. Like I learned how to do all those things. And I actually feel like in the beginning, it's what needed to happen because now I know how all of those things are done. So I know how long it takes to edit a 20-minute video. If someone's saying like, oh, it's going to take me 5 hours. No, it's not. It's not going to take you 5 hours and I'm not paying you 5 hours because it just doesn't take that long. I double check my books because how many stories have we all heard about someone's books being messed up and either the IRS coming after you or them stealing money from you or whatever, right? Like I like knowing those things, but that doesn't mean that I need to continue doing those things.
Right.
So there is value in learning them. And then once you learn them and you know them, hand them off. You don't need to do them anymore, especially if it's repetitive tasks. If you're doing one thing over and over and over again every week, it doesn't need to be touched by you anymore. Someone else can do it. I read their book, 10X is Easier Than 2X last year. And I'm actually getting ready to reread it this year again with a business partner. And that book blew my mind because actually, as you were like introducing, I was like, oh, I need to remember to say this in the podcast. One of the things they talk about is like, if you want to 2X your business, generally it takes double the time if you want to 2X your business.
Right.
So I just spoke in front of a room of realtors yesterday and was like, how many people here could feasibly work 2 times more than you're currently working right now? I think like 4 people raised their hands and they were all brand new realtors. I was like, well, you don't have any business. Of course you can work double.
Right.
Like, if you're currently working 40 or 60 hours a week, could you feasibly work 80 to 120 hours a week? No. And even if you could, do you really want to? What are you missing out on if you're doing that? And so this idea that like, if you really truly want to grow your business, when you 10X your business, it actually requires you to work less.
Yep.
But it's 100% true.
Yes. Okay. So just add one more, the trifecta, the 3 books by these guys, 10X is Easier Than 2X, Who Not How, and The Gap in the Gain. That's another one. Super great listen because the authors talk to each other after each chapter. And that's not included in the book. we won't get into that one. I think 10X is easier than 2X. I think this is a great segue to kind of talk about your thoughts on trading time for money. And I'm just curious. So let's just double down on this. Let's 2X down on what was just brought up. This isn't the first time that my peeps have heard about 10X is easier than 2X. Like I finished that book, I think in like November, December last year. And then I got on this like rabbit hole of like reading all of their books. You can double your efforts. There's so many ways to 2X your business, right? That's why I love that they're, oh yeah, if you want to 2X your business, and that's what we create goals and we do all these things every year. And we're like, yeah, man, if we could double if we could 1.5X our revenue, that'd be amazing. 2X, wow, okay. So many ways to get there. 10X, there's probably just one way that you could literally 10X your business. And even if you can't 10X it, if you're doing that one thing, you're probably going to, at the very least, 2X it, right? I mean, so like, and you're not going to be working twice as much. Like the 10X strategy approach or whatever, it's like, yeah, it's one thing. And if you're doing that thing, whatever it is, once a week or, 5 hours, whatever the thing is, it's not going to come close to you doubling your time. Fascinating.
Yep. Yeah. And there are a lot of, honestly, like video editors, I think out there that do time for money. I put in an hour of time, you pay me for an hour of energy. And it's a super common business practice in the service world. I stopped working for an hourly rate, probably within the first year of my business, I think, because, first off, it takes us more than an hour to put in an hour of work. So it takes us prep time. For me, I'm thinking about business strategy for clients and not even consciously thinking about it, but I'll be lifting weights and be like, oh, I have to remember to tell so-and-so this thing. Or even today, I was doing something, a client wants to launch a product line and I just found this kind of like easier way of doing it. So I'm like, oh, I have to remember to message her and tell her about this thing. I am working for my clients so much more than just the hour that I'm face-to-face with them. So first off, the idea of trading time for money is unless you're on the billable hour and you're billing them for every 6 minutes that you are thinking about, or I used to be on the billable hour. Apparently, I still remember all of it. Unless you're keeping track of every 6 minutes of your day and what client you're thinking about or prepping for or whatever, you are losing money. The next thing is if you are only getting paid for your time is limited. We all only have 24 hours in a day. And so with sleeping and eating and using the restroom, max hours of work, 16-ish, depending on how much you sleep. I'm an 8-hour a night girl. And that's not even including like if you want to work out, if you have a family, if you go get your hair cut, if you like any of those things, if you have to go to the doctor, if you have to go to the chiropractor, like none of those things happen if you're working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you're automatically limited if you are trading time for money. 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that is, again, if you're not taking care of yourself at all. My whole purpose of what I do is there are far too many entrepreneurs out there overworking and underliving. And none of us got into this. Like you said, quitting a job to work 24/7. It's funny because a lot of us do it, but should we be? Like, yeah. I did not become an entrepreneur to miss out on the life that I'm building for myself. Like I became an entrepreneur to have freedom. I became an entrepreneur to have a kind of lifestyle that I want to have. And that cannot happen if you're trading time for money.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get trapped though. I think that's the problem because like you said, yeah, we all kind of learned how to do all the things at the beginning. And then that rhythm of like, well, okay, I work from 8 to 4, then I take a break. I spend 2 hours with the family. We have dinner, and then, kids go down at 8. So then I'm back on from like 8 to 10 or 8 to 12. And then, kind of the same routine whenever I can squeeze in an extra hour here or 30 minutes there or 2 hours there, I got to do it. So like it just becomes a belief because we get used to it. My friend Graham Cochran, he was starting a new business and his friend challenged him on like, he's like, well, when are you going to work? And he's like, well, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And the guy was like, why are you doing that? And he's like, well, I mean, that's what everybody does. And he's like, dude, you're the business that you're creating, like you can create whatever hours. There's no expectation. You don't have an office. You're working from home. You're shooting videos. You're posting them on YouTube. You're answering comments. You can actually pick your hours when you want to work. Like nobody has and if they do have an expectation, like how dare them? Like that's not like any of their business. So he challenged him, like, what if you worked Monday through Thursday? Could you figure out in your schedule how to do all the things that you need to do in those 4 days? And the way that he explains it, it's like Parkinson's law. Like if you say you need 5 days to do all your work, it's going to take you 5 days. If you say, well, actually I only have 4. If somebody stole that day and you never had another Friday to work again, could you figure out how to run your business and be successful with 4 days? I would say as an entrepreneur, you probably figure it out. So I'm just curious from your perspective, is there something that we can, how can we encourage the business owner who just has gotten used to 50 hours a week, 60 hours, maybe 80 hours a week, feels trapped in that? This is just my lot in life. One day, maybe when we land the big clients or we're making enough money, I won't have to do this. But in the meantime, I got to put the hours in. And we all know that if you're not getting enough hours sleeping, you become so much less effective. After a certain amount of hours of focused work, you become so less effective. But it's like, well, like, how's the work? It's not going to edit itself. It's not going to shoot itself. Yep. Like, these emails aren't going to answer themselves. So, man, help.
I mean, and this is one of the things that they talk about in that book as well. And one of the things I harp on is like, we start our businesses in general based on the models that are already existing to us. So we look at how have other people done it, and we listen to a lot of the ways that other people have done it. And we ask people in our industry how they've done it. And then we model ourselves after that. Well, I live in an area of the country that's very much like, well, this is how we do things here. And I'm always like, right, but is that the best way of doing it? Just because it's been done that way for so long doesn't mean it's the best way. Our world has changed a lot. There's so much, like AI in and of itself. I mean, come on. There's so much out there. So, I think that that's a really great question to start asking yourself, is like, just because I've done it this way in the past, does that mean that that's the best way to continue doing it? I would say probably 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. If you haven't asked that question in your business in the past, the answer is probably no. So I think that's a really great one. And then, what I do, even when I had a fashion label for 8 years before I started this business, and my mentors in my fashion business were not in the fashion industry. And the reason being was that all sorts of people in the fashion industry told me, you're doing it wrong. You were supposed to have been an intern, put in your dues, become an assistant designer, worked your way up, and only then do you start your own label. And I was like, well, that's funny, because a lot of you that took that path are super unhappy. You're all leaving New York. You're all leaving your nice, fancy jobs that you all worked so hard to get. I'm making strides in my business that people who have been in the industry for 30 years have not been able to make for themselves. Like, is it really going to be the most effective route for me to just watch what's been done in the past? Or is it going to be more effective for me to look to what's being done in the business world, or what's the most effective approach in the business world, and start doing that? I was one of, I would say, the early adopters to Instagram. I was on Instagram in 2012. Like, it's crazy to think I've been on Instagram for 12 years. Like, even Facebook, I was on Facebook. I think I still lived in Italy when I was on Facebook. So like 2004, 5, 6, somewhere in there, right? Like, when you can innovate with a lot of these things and start seeing what's working, regardless of your industry and what people are innovating with, why not try it? Why not be one of the first people in your industry to find an evolved business model? It's going to take some creative juices on your end. Like, you've got to think outside the box. You've got to identify solutions that are not the solutions that have existed in the past. But at the end of the day, I will tell you, it is worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. And I think to that point, we spend so much of our time working in our businesses, doing all the things, right? Building the website, figuring out our social strategy, shooting the video, editing, doing client work, all that stuff, and not enough time working on the business. And it's when we would work on the business that we'd be able to ask these hard questions of like, okay, is what I'm doing working? Is it sustainable? If I took a day out of my current schedule, how would I have to restructure my day to get this stuff done? Like when you hire your first editor, if you don't give your editor a time frame and say like, you only have X amount of hours to finish this, or, I have to have this by Friday. Actually, we don't do deliverables on Friday. We say on Thursday so that clients are not emailing us on Saturday saying like, what the heck is this? So there's just like little, that one's free. So when you have an editor or somebody and you create this constraint, people get stuff done. I mean, they might complain, they might, but you're getting something. If you say like, no matter what, by the end of Thursday, I have to have this edit. So figure it out. Guess what? They figure it out. If you put those constraints on yourself, hey, what are all my responsibilities? What are all the things? Okay, well, maybe I don't get an extra day to just like, build out my website. I can do that once a month. I get one day where I work one extra day, but outside of that, like these 4 days, I've got to fit in all of these things. Like, can you do that? And you don't know until you start asking yourself those questions and looking at what you're currently doing. How are you currently working? What is working? What's not working? So finding that time, fighting for that time to work on your business is so vital. It's so essential to any sort of freedom or real, what I would say is like real success in running a business.
Yeah. Another book recommendation, if people have not yet read it, great book. I first read it, I think in like 2009 or 2010, like really early on in my entrepreneurial journey, called The E-Myth. And what he talks about in that is this concept of working in your business versus working on your business. And working in your business is if you are a pie baker and you're working for someone else and you're really good at baking pies, and everyone comes in and says, oh, you're so good at baking pies, you should start your own business. So you start your own business and then you just spend all of your time in the business baking pies.
Right.
But baking pies is a very different experience from being the owner of a pie shop. Like they are not the same thing. So if you're spending all of your time just baking pies, you are neglecting to look at your profit margins, your employee retention rates, your like all of the things that you need to look at, creative marketing techniques, all of that stuff that's going to help you grow the business because you're just so focused on baking pies every day. So maybe very similarly to video editors, if you're just sitting down editing videos all day, every day, because you're good at editing videos, I mean, if that's your business model and that's what you want, by all means, have that. There's a cap on that. And so as long as you're okay with that cap, by all means, stay there. If you're not okay with that, you do have to start building in this time to be working on your business so that you can be figuring out those creative solutions to some of these problems. Okay, if I can't get what I need to get done in 4 days, what are my options? You have more options than just starting to work the 5th day again. So what are 50 different options that you have available to you right now to not go back to working 5 days a week? And then which one are you going to choose to move forward with?
That's so good. For you, what was the mindset shift going from, this like hourly, I'm trading time for dollars. You realize like, oh my gosh, I mean, I'm thinking about my clients way more than just the time I'm working there. Like what gave you the guts to do that? But then also like, how do you base that? Like what's the new structure? Because I know there's a filmmaker out there that's just like, well, I mean, I was with a guy yesterday. He's like, yeah, I charge $250 an hour. I'm like, okay, that's great. I mean, if you're working full time and you're charging, but he's not, right? He was about ready to do a job for me. He was going to have to drive 3 hours and he was going to only charge me for 1 hour. So that's not, good on paper, nice on paper. So how does somebody that's in that stage of their business, how do they start to think like, well, what is this worth and what could I charge?
Yeah, I look at value. I do value-based pricing. So I actually have an episode coming out about this on my podcast. And the idea behind it is, the value of working with me isn't just in that 1 hour. It's in the arc of the time that we're together and what you're creating. So I started looking at, and granted, mine is a little more tangible because I'm working with clients in their business and there's numbers and metrics and things like that. But, video editors can look at, okay, did they increase download rates? Is there more engagement? Is there what's the actual impact of the work that you're doing? So I started looking at, I had a client go just double her business from 130,000 to 260,000, like that. And she's been at that same rate since 2016. So she's made an extra $1 million in her business just as a result of working with me. Another client who was working with me, her business started growing 4 times faster than the national average. Another entrepreneur who she doubled her revenue in her business and got to quit her job 3 months sooner than she was expecting. I have another client who she met me 5 years ago on the brink of bankruptcy. And October and November were her first 2 consecutive 6-figure months in her business, right? So yes. I'm able to look at, okay, if you're working with me, here are, in general, some of the results that could happen or are available to you to happen in your business as a result of working with me. So imagine if I'm working with someone and I'm charging them $100 an hour, and they create an extra $1 million in their business as a result of paying me $100 an hour. That's significantly undervaluing the impact and the value that I'm bringing into their business. So I price my stuff based on, these are the results that most of my clients, as long as you show up fully and do all the things and work with me, and, my clients get really remarkable results. I just launched a mastermind and a woman enrolled, I think it was 2 months before the mastermind. So she kind of got a head start on some momentum and taking actions. She just doubled her rates, has people booking them. She has a sold out event coming up, all these things. And she's like, it's as a result of investing in myself through you. So, I look at those things and I think there's more value that you're providing as a video editor than just that hour that you're working on someone's videos. So what is that value? And you have to just start baking that into your pricing. If your clients are seeing consistent results, what is that value and what does that translate to monetarily? Because the value you put out should be equal to the value that someone is paying you. And I know sometimes that's a little nebulous, so it's a little hard to say. There's no mathematical equation to put that out into the world, but that's really what I look at. And so I do monthly retainers, or with my mastermind, it's a 6 months set price. And I know that a lot of service providers work that way. It's pretty standard, especially in the coaching and consulting industry. So if you have a long-term editing client and they want 4 videos a month from you, don't charge them hourly, charge them a set retainer price for the month. And this is what it looks like for me to edit 4 videos for you a month that are each, 45 minutes each.
Yeah, I love that. That's the value-based pricing was a total mind-blowing experience when that was taught to me. One of the things that I changed in my discovery calls with clients is I started asking them, well, so we do this video for you. You get the video. It's doing whatever you want it to do. What's the potential impact financially? Whether it's through time saved or it's through new clients that you've gained, what is the potential for the next, let's just say the next 12 months? Let's say the video works for 12 months and then after that it stops working. And sometimes people will have numbers. Sometimes they'll say oh, well, with this one medical device that we were working with a client on, they're like, well, if we sell one of these, we're making our money back on the video, whatever the video costs, because it's a $250,000 device. So then, after the one device, anything after that, it's all profit. I'm okay, well, and how many are you guys hoping to sell? It's we're hoping to sell 50 the first year. It's oh my gosh, potential $10 million. I'm not doing public math, but
Right.
millions of dollars because of, well, not solely because of this video that we're going to do, but as part of their campaign. So for the clients that they don't really have an answer, they're like, we don't know. Like we just know that, a video is going to help. Okay. Well, what if you don't do a video? Like, will that have an impact on your sales? And then, you're asking questions that maybe they haven't thought about yet. So they're calling you, they're getting ready to spend money because they do believe that the video is going to help. So getting them to articulate what the potential value is. So if they did say like, well, we could see, getting this many clients or saving this many hours this year by having, over the course of 12 months. Okay. Then you can start to put like actual dollars and say like, based on what you just said to me, that's $250,000 potentially this year. If this video just does okay. If it does amazing, that it's potentially more. So let's say $250,000. This video that we're talking about, we've done projects like this that cost $30,000. I mean, if you spent $30,000 on a video that with the results, that's going to help you get $250,000 just this year. And it's probably the video is going to work for you next year. So maybe that's $500,000 and you spend 30. Is that like out of the ballpark? Is that an insane price? Well, no, I guess when you put it like that, we still don't want to spend that much money. It's like, whoa, wait, why don't you want to spend that much money if you have the potential to make this much money? So that's the conversation that we have these days, which is much different than coming back to this client and saying like, well, so yeah, we did some number crunching and we think it's going to, take this many hours and it's going to cost $30,000. What? Why is it going to cost 30? We got another quote of like $8,000. It's like, we're not talking to value. They're talking hours. And sure, you can hop on that train and do hourly pricing if you want, or you can change the conversation and say like, let's talk about value. What's the potential value of what this project could mean for your business?
Yeah. I recently had a call with a client and he wanted to create an extra $1 million in his business this year. And I quoted him my price and he was like, like clutching his pearls. And I like do the math and I'm like, it's 2.4% of the extra money that you want to make in your business this year. Like, it's always really interesting to me where like, from my perspective, I'm like, it's actually a drop in the bucket compared to what you want to make. And I think a lot of people do get scared around quoting those numbers or quoting that. And I love the questions that you just asked and would encourage anyone else listening to like, either steal or reword those questions for themselves, because when you can illustrate and even get the client to illustrate for themselves the value, like that's a game changer. And they're either going to be in or they're out. And that doesn't mean that you should change your pricing. It just means that they're aligned or they're not aligned, and that's it. So I'm a big fan of quoting package rates and things like that. And the other thing I'll say, I've worked with some video editors, and I will say that a video editor that you're paying $30,000 to is also going to get you the edits on time. Right. Versus I'm still waiting for some video edits from September that I'm possibly never going to get because I was paying someone hourly, and you get what you pay for at the end of the day.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. How much pain do you want to experience through this, process? And it's like, well, you could pay. So then it just starts to make sense for ourselves when clients are shocked at the price. It's like, well, no. I mean, there's somebody out there that will do it much cheaper. But like, do you want to do the project management? Do you want to like risk like not having this project in your hands? You said like you've got a drop dead of like 3 weeks from today. Like, I mean, somebody out there might be able to do it. If it were me, if it were my money and I needed it then, I'm going to go with somebody I know that can actually deliver. And I know it's going to cost me money. It's the whole like, you can get something cheap, easy, and fast, or something cheap, good.
But only two.
Right. You can't get all three. Like, it's going to be two of those things. So anyway, Bri, this has been so good. I want people to know where they can find you and follow you. So please share that with us.
Yep. So I have the Entrepreneur Coach podcast. So if you want to find the episode I was just talking about pricing, it's up there. I'm on Instagram at Bri Seeley and on LinkedIn and Facebook at Bri Seeley. On YouTube, I think the Entrepreneur Coach podcast is up on YouTube. I'm like everywhere. And then my website is briseeley.com. So if you Google my name, I'm there. I'm all over.
She's there. Amazing. This has been really good. I'm excited about getting this episode into the hands of my peeps. How do you want to leave us today?
I would just encourage you to start seeing your business from a different perspective. If you've been looking at it from the same perspective for a while and you're feeling frustrated, maybe it's time to take a step to the right or take a step to the left and just start seeing it from a different angle, because there's so many opportunities out there and possibilities and business models and just like infinite possibilities out there. Open yourself up, start exploring what they might be, and take some steps towards it, because none of us started our businesses to overwork and underlive.
That's so good. And just to add one more thing to that, like sometimes we can't see, right? We're kind of like, we're just locked in with what we've got right in front of us. So right, exactly. Hiring a coach, looking for a mastermind group, some outside perspective can go a long way. Yeah, it might cost you some money, but think about what it's costing you to not live experiencing freedom and to not be able to charge based on your value versus, pricing. Like, oh my gosh, like what if you just could make one shift, but to get somebody from the outside that could come in and help you see some of those things and make a plan. So anyway, last bit of encouragement there. Bri, thank you so much. So good to get time with you. Thanks for bringing the heat and just for being who you are. Really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was such a pleasure, as expected.
All right, you made it to the end of the episode, but don't go just yet. A couple of things here. Show notes you can get access to studiosherpas.com/374. Links, different things that we talked about there will be found there. If you liked this episode, if you're watching this video on YouTube or Facebook, leave a comment. Let me know what a takeaway was. If I don't know, if I'm not hearing from people and I don't know, hey, is this show good? Is this content helpful? Is this topic a good one? Is it relevant? If I don't know that stuff, the way that I know that is by people telling me. So email me, leave a comment on this video, say, hey, this is helpful. Keep doing this. But if it's just crickets, I'm just gonna create a private podcast just for me. It'll be just for me. You can email me, Ryan@studiosherpas.com, RYAN@studiosherpas.com, or you can find me on the socials at Ryan Coral or at Grow Your Video Business. I would love to hear from you. Love to see your face. Stop being a stalker and say, hi. Okay, that's all. I hope you have an incredible, super fruitful, amazing week, and I will talk to you really, really soon. Bye for now.